The Denver Nuggets, Jeff. They are somehow 7-3 and fourth in the Western Conference right now as of this recording. There is only one possible place to start with the Denver Nuggets. That is Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic, 10 games into this season, I think this has been the most, and obviously the most impressive and dominant offensive season ever from Nikola Jokic. And I'm saying this about a player who should have won the past 4 consecutive MVPs. If he keeps this up, and we texted a little bit about this, if he keeps this up, we're talking about a player who has been clearly, in my opinion, the best player in the NBA in 5 consecutive seasons, culminating with the most impressive performance that he's ever had with very little around him. I think this is a player that is truly on course to be a top 5 player of all time. And that, in my opinion, is more of the floor than the ceiling right now. Jeff, the Nuggets, I just need to say this out loud. I haven't said this out loud. I've read this, but I haven't said it out loud. The Nuggets are 44 points better when Nikola Jokic is on the court so far. This is complete nonsense. He is actually breaking like every belief that I have, unfortunately, like in terms of the modern game of basketball, like everything I believe in, like spacing and shooting. None of that apparently matters if you have Nikola Jokic. The Nuggets are last in the NBA in percentage of shots coming from 3. They are number 1 in the NBA in percentage of shots coming at the rim. We just had a Knicks episode where I talked about how you have to have the threat of the 3-point shot to penalize teams to stop you from scoring at the rim. Not if you have Nikola Jokic. This is insane. This is like having the best passing attack in the NFL and you don't have any running backs on your roster at all. Like there's no keeping the defense honest. This guy's just too good, and it doesn't matter what you do. This is true dominance from a player who doesn't turn 30 until next year. I don't know what else to say about the guys. It's completely ridiculous that he has the Nuggets with this roster at 7-3. It's completely absurd.
Yeah, he has top 3. Maybe I don't see how he could surpass Jordan or LeBron, but like, they're their own thing, in my opinion. I think they're their own tier away from everyone else. I think he's has a top 3 peak of all time. I think that's over.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone. I used to think I would put Shaq there. Shaq had a pretty elite peak historically. Pretty elite. I put him in the top 3 of all time. He's pretty elite, damn good. You know. Yeah, he's pretty awesome. I'm almost driven speechless here. Like some of this, I mean, look, XJ, as we know, Christian Brown, the Nuggets are 40 points better when Brown plays, so it could be a Christian Brown thing.
It could be a Christian Brown thing, to be fair.
It could be Christian Brown just driving all the success of. Brown's been awesome, by the way. I don't know if he's a 48% 3-point shooter, but
I wonder if KCP, when KCP was leading, it was top 3 in the NBA and on off. I wonder if he brought that over to Orlando with him. I haven't checked, but
you should check. Look, there just aren't enough good things to say about Jokic. It's just you just got to sit back and enjoy watching him because everything he does on the offensive side of the ball, he's just like a wizard. He's so big that all of his screens are effective in giving whatever teammate he has an advantage immediately. And he's just got this guile and dexterity to roll and get to his spot in the mid post and then just hold the ball there. And what can you do? Like if you send a guy, he's going to find the open guy. If you don't send a guy, he's going to score. He had 30 points the other night on 13 shots, and he took 1 3. How is that even possible? How is that even possible? I don't understand. He took 13 shots. Like, yeah, I've seen Steph Curry do that. Yeah, Steph Curry went 9 of 13 from 3 and shot a couple free throws. Okay, yeah, there's 30 points. Nikola Jokic doesn't take the extra point, and he's a good 3-point shooter. He's like, I think that would be too easy. I'm going to make it harder on myself. You know, it's like
He's shooting 56% from 3 this season.
Right, but he doesn't shoot them. And like, if That would annoy me if I was a Nuggets fan, but then like it wouldn't. How can you be annoyed with Nikola Jokic? You can't. Like whatever he's doing is right. It's like if you're Roger Federer's tennis coach and like somebody's like, "Oh, why did Federer do that?" It's like he's right. He's right. Like let him just do his thing.
No critique. I got no critiques. He could. I don't know. Whatever he does, yeah, I agree. Is right.
It's insane to watch this guy play basketball. He's just the combination. Look, the defense will always be a real concern. Mike Malone is a good to very good, maybe the best possible coach to try and solve that. Like that's his mission almost, is like the rotations and building a passable defense around Nikola Jokic, trying to make up for what his lack of speed does to your defense and his lack of rim protection at the center position. I think that's what Mike Malone is almost there for. That's what, and you got the surrounding pieces. You got Aaron Gordon, who's a nice, I know he's not healthy right now, but he's a good weak side rim protector. Without KCP, especially, they don't really have any super good defenders. I know Murray is probably better than his reputation allows. Michael Porter Jr. isn't the sieve that he used to be. Christian Brown, again, I joked about earlier, he's been good. But there's no reason that this team can be, as good as they are, as passable as they are defensively. They're just barely below league average right now. And that's good enough when you have Nikola Jokic leading the offense, apparently. You don't have to shoot threes. You just have to have sound cutters, people who will play off Jokic's weird inverted form of gravity, because that's what it is. He has Steph Curry-like gravity, but he does it inside the arc. We've never really seen anything like that before, and it's remarkable to watch.
It's completely remarkable. I actually disagree with something you said, particularly about his defense, about kind of trying to, and you didn't say it in these words, so maybe this is not what you meant, but I got the impression that you were suggesting that Malone needs to always figure out how to kind of insulate Jokic defensively, giving his, sort of lack of rim protection and kind of like defenses, or his defense, Nuggets defenses wouldn't be as good because of that reason. But I think there's just been some narrative around, and again, not from you, of course, but some narrative around like he's not a great defender because he is not someone we think of as like a prototypical great defender, Anthony Davis, Chet Holmgren. And some of the analytics like, all these impact metrics across the board all have him as such a great defender. And maybe it's just coincidental or something weird going on with the numbers. Like they're just missing something. But we know he's not that good a defender. I don't agree with that. I think probably due to his rebounding first and foremost defensively, his stunts, his thought, his thinking through the game on that end, his quick hands, size and strength. I think all of that combined make him a good defensive player at the 5. And I think that the impact numbers reflect that consistently throughout his career. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think he's actually a very, very high impact defensive player. I do think it's harder this year because he has so much burden. I mean, he always has had a ton of burden offensively, but this year is the burden offensively is astronomical, and so I think he's not going to have the highest impact defensive season for that reason. But I think in general, I think he's actually a really, really good defensive center. Just doesn't go about it through the kind of conventional ways that we think of as like rim protection, blocking shots, and deterring shots at the rim.
He's got really good hands in passing lanes and like just really quick hands, so that's good. And like you said, he's one of the best defensive rebounders, one of the best box outers, one of the best at boxing out. These things are undoubtedly true. I do think that when I was talking about him, quote-unquote, being insulated, it's specifically related to his foot speed and what teams can do if they get him in the pick and roll or get him in the action. It's tougher for him to recover. And I think that is scheme based. I think that the reason he's less detrimental than he could be is because they've built a good scheme around him of players who know what their assignment is, who know what the call to duty is with those rare times when Jokic is put into the action like that. If you go back and watch the 2022 postseason first round when Murray was out, when they played the Warriors, and the Warriors beat the Nuggets in 5 games on their way to winning a championship. They never wanted that to happen again. They knew they needed Murray back. They knew they needed to get healthy, but more than anything, they were never going to let Jokic get exposed like that again. And so, is Jokic responsible? And do I want to completely remove any credit to him for improving and for the high IQ genius that he is? No, I don't think he's 0% responsible. But I think the transformation you've seen on their end defensively from that series to where they are now, a huge majority of the credit goes to the coaching, the scheme, and the surrounding pieces than to Jokic himself. And I think with worse, more closed-minded coaches who were just like, well, this is the scheme, you got to get better at it, Nikola, I think he would look a lot worse than he is because of his limitations.
Yeah, I love that you unpack that more, and that's really helpful. I think in that regard, I largely agree with you. I think the only thing I don't know about kind of allocating, credit for it. It's tough for me to say, who's more responsible, but I do think it's like a collaborative effort in terms of the positions that he's been put in and kind of the way that they play defense, like you said, when he's put into action and all those kinds of things.
Just think about what we just talked about in the last episode with Mikal Bridges. I think if Mikal Bridges, if he goes to a team where they just switch everything and he never has to navigate a screen ever again, he didn't just magically improve at defense. The scheme got better.
Yeah, no,
right?
I totally agree. I'm just saying, and then if that happened and Mikal Bridges was, a top, like a all NBA or all defense candidate, would we say that's due to Mikal Bridges, or would we say that's due to the scheme? Like, I think I wouldn't say, oh, well, he's only that good because of the scheme. Like, I wouldn't give the scheme, I wouldn't give that more of the credit than I would Mikal Bridges, I guess, if that makes sense. Both are necessary.
That's probably true. But I guess my main point is that both are necessary, and that when I was saying what Malone's job is, there's nothing else to do with Nikola Jokic. There's no coaching necessary offensively. You build the system around him and let him shine. I think his job was again, going back to that 2022 postseason, is to just make sure they never had that happen again, where Steph was just dancing and Nikola Jokic was in drop and Steph was just walking into open threes, and it's just like, that's not going to work.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. I think you're on point there. Geoff, what do you think about moving forward? Where is this team going to go with this season? I mean, just moving forward with this season, because to me, I'm sad at this team that they've assembled around Jokic. If you put a semblance of a team who could shoot threes around Jokic, they might shatter all basketball records for offense. I feel like if you put the Serbia national team around Nikola Jokic, they would ruin the league. They would destroy the league. I kind of feel sad about just the way that they've surrounded him, and I'm not sure how sustainable this is for him to be playing at this rate, at this pace, with this amount of burden, with this amount of creation responsibility, and to be this effective at every single thing he does with the surrounding cast that he has. Is this something that's sustainable? Will the Nuggets stay in the top half or the top, part 1 through 4, 1 through 5, 1 through 6 of the Western Conference?
I don't think they're going to be I don't think they're going to have home court advantage in the first round. I think that's going to fall off. I think Jokic has got to start playing less. I think, though, with Gordon out, one thing that's been good for them is they're kind of finding a way to build their depth from within by learning more about the players than they would have if Gordon was healthy. And I specifically am talking about Peyton Watson, who I think has been better than they ever thought he could be on both sides of the ball. It gets old to just keep saying over and over again, it's going to come down to the shot. Whether he can shoot or not, does play a big factor in it. But he has been impressive on both sides of the ball in a way where when he goes back to the bench, when Aaron Gordon comes back, okay, that's a guy you can rely on off the bench that I'm not sure they knew they could rely on with the start of the season. Strother's been nice. I'm saying his name for the third time. Christian Brown's been really good. They really just need They need Murray to be better in these non-Jokic minutes at leading the bench. That is key number one. Their team, the system isn't sustainable if the guy they paid high nine figures to be the second star can only really succeed when he's out there with Jokic. He needs to be better at leading the second unit, because then if he's not, it falls in the hands of guys like Russell Westbrook, who, he's trying. We'll say that. We'll say that Russ always leaves it out there. But I don't know if they're going to have enough if they don't get more from Jamal Murray. So I think it's got to start there.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're on point. I think that my concern around the Nuggets, especially this year, really wasn't around just the shooting and the lack of shooting, I should say. It was around what are we going to actually get from Jamal Murray. I think Murray has to perform at a really high level, maybe the highest level of his career, for this team to really hit what I think some people think of as their ceiling in terms of top 3 team in the West and competing for a title. I think we have to see just like peak Murray that we haven't seen in a long time, and on a consistent basis. And we just haven't seen it so far. Obviously, he's gotten injured and has missed a few games, but Jokic is playing like almost 40 minutes per game at this point. It's just not, like you said, it's just not sustainable for him to play that much. And Murray is clearly most effective, like every other player, when he plays next to Jokic, but he has to be able to do enough on his own to not have a 44-point differential between when Jokic plays and when he sits. That's absurd, and that is not sustainable, because I like Peyton Watson a lot, and I've been a big proponent of Peyton Watson since very early into his second year. I think he's a defensive monster, absolute defensive monster. I don't believe in the shooting. I think he's shooting like 39% so far this season, but on very few attempts. I don't really buy that. And I don't believe in the Christian Brown shooting, even though I think he's a better shooter and he will be a good shooter. I don't think he's going to be like some elite shooter or something like that. So I just think they're gonna need a ton from Jamal Murray, and hopefully he's able to provide that to them.
And for anyone out there who wants some data about the Murray Jokic stuff, and this is why anytime you use any of this data, you always have to look deeper, because just look at on-court net rating, which a lot of people use out of context. You look at individual on-court net rating. Jamal Murray's on-court net rating is actually higher than Nikola Jokic's. The Nuggets right now are performing better when Murray plays than when Jokic plays. They're plus 12.4 per 100 when Murray plays, and they're plus 11.3 per 100 when Jokic plays. All right, that's good. That's really good. They go up to a plus 18 per 100 when Jokic and Murray play together. That's very good. That's elite. When Jokic plays without Murray, the Nuggets are winning those possessions by 3 points per 100 possessions, which is pretty good for a star without his co-star or his second-best player. When Murray plays without Jokic, they're losing those minutes by 19 points per 100 possessions. Just getting straight slaughtered. So those minutes have to get better, because if they don't, Malone's only going to... He has two options if they don't get better. Lose or run Jokic into the ground. Those are the only two options. Right now, he's choosing option 2. He's saying in the short term, and he had a quote about it yesterday, in the short term, they only play once until Friday. Then they're off for a while because of the NBA Cup break. He's hoping to get whatever he can out of Jokic because they're going to get to rest and hope the team gets healthy, and then they won't need Jokic as much. That's an interesting strategy, but at the end of the day, there's always going to be a reason to play Jokic more if they're getting killed when Jokic doesn't play. That's not just going to go away. It's not going to become February and Mike Malone is going to say, oh, you know what? Now I'm okay with getting killed when Jokic doesn't play. No, the conundrum is going to be the same. You need to find a way to be passable when Jokic isn't playing, or long-term, there's no ceiling to this team.
I think that's perfectly put. We'll wrap up there, because I do think you really summarized it with the data that you shared. I think that is reflective of how, not great the surrounding cast is, that even with Jokic without Murray, the team is good but not great, and Murray without Jokic, it's like a catastrophe. So very early into the season, plenty of time for a move to be made or for guys to get better. So we'll see how things go, but definitely going to need some improvement on that on that important performance with Jamal Murray on the court. Any last words, Geoff, before we wrap up?
Nope. Just, again, thanks to everyone who listened, who made it through both episodes or one of the episodes. We're covering all NBA teams, both here, Twitter, TikTok. Anywhere you are, we probably are. So give us a follow and comment below if you want to chat with us, because we engage with everyone. So thanks for listening.
Yes, sir. Thanks for listening. For Geoff, I'm XJ, and this is Hot Hand Theory.